Episode 900. Welcome back to the NPC podcast. We're going to dive into something a little different today, not talking exactly about like anatomy or muscular endurance or an energy system or a training protocol. But we want to talk to you guys a little bit about what it looks like to be a student of your sport, and just things that we've been talking about recently as coaches, as like what other people are doing in like mainstream sports like basketball, golf, soccer, tennis, whatever, football, for sure football. And just something we've been thinking about lately as comp season has been rolling around, and just a big lack of like video analysis and video review and just like weekly analysis of the sport in and of itself. And not a ton of athletes really doing that. So it's just something that kind of came up in my head, is like, how do we help athletes figure out how they can use the top competitors in our sport, and video analysis to improve the way they're competing. And that can also apply to training.
Yeah. I think like even before you talk about looking at elite athletes, they should just be looking at themselves, right? And I know a lot of people are already doing this, but like I ask athletes all the time, like, hey, what's your pace on a 20-minute workout in the rower usually? And like, I have no idea. I just kind of like go based on feel. Or like, do you know what your 5K pace is? Do you know how fast your thrusters are? Do you know how many sets of double unders you need if there's 100 in a workout? And people don't really even have that grasp of knowledge for their own training. So if you can't do that, it's really hard to even mimic what an elite athlete would do.
Right.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think in our sport that less people are students of the game as much as they are in other sports?
Yeah, I don't know. I think some of it has to do with like team aspect, right? Like it is an individual sport. Not that individuals in other sports don't do that, but like, I mean, you guys were saying it, like when you played football, you were forced to go to like film.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when another team was coming up, you would watch film of the other team. And I actually know of a couple like CrossFit athletes at the high level that will watch their other competitors compete, so they know where they're the most efficient, so they can have a general idea on the floor of like, okay, this person is going to push this movement at this moment in the workout because that's their best movement. And so I need to pace myself up to this point if I want to compete with them on that movement, because they are the most efficient rope climber in the sport.
What do you think, Brandon? Why do you think it's the case? I have my own theory.
I don't know. I ask myself that all the time because I come from a football background where we were constantly watching film. You know, we were talking about this, and I know, Dom, you just brought it up, but it was like, you know, every Sunday after a Saturday game, and then Monday again we were watching film, and then we would watch film of ourselves in practice on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then it would start over the next week. And Dom, to your point, like we would watch film on the other team because we wanted to know like what coverages were they running, what kind of offense did they employ, all of those things, so we knew how to play and how to defend it, or how to run different offensive play calls against that defense. In the same way, CrossFitters could easily, once you get the workouts, let's just say like the Mayhem Classic's a perfect example, and they knew the workouts a couple of days ahead of time, they're looking at, okay, who's really good at squatting, like that first workout? Who's good at running? Who's really good at snatching, the heavy Isabel? And then you can get an idea of where you should place in each workout to know how you can maximize your own scores throughout the weekend.
I think the comeback to that, though, would be like, you're watching film and football of the other guy going, but I can't do anything to impede their progress, right? Like they're doing their own workout, I'm doing my own workout. Dom, you touched on this. Like, what would you say to that?
One of the biggest benefits of watching film for me was learning how other guys moved with different play calls. Yeah. Like I honestly, it wasn't just watching the other team, and Dom kind of talked about watching elite athletes. A really great way that I learned in high school how to become a better linebacker is I would sit there and watch Brian Urlacher play. He was a famous linebacker for the Chicago Bears. And I just like mimicked everything that he did. And at the time, I didn't really know why. I was just like doing it because I thought he was really cool and he was really good. But I watched his footwork. I watched how he tackled, what he did with his helmet, what he was doing with certain arms when he was shedding blocks. Like all of that little stuff helps me become a better linebacker. So the same way, it may not just be can I beat them in a workout? Because sometimes you're not going to be able to, especially when it's someone that's doing 30 snatches for time at 225 in 3 minutes, and you can do it in 5 minutes. But you could learn a technique like, oh, man, they're pulling the bar off the ground this way. Maybe I should try that. Or on their legless rope climbs, I noticed that they're doing a different kip swing with their knees than I've ever tried. So now I'm going to try that. It's a way that you can develop new skills without ever even having to, like, those are the things you wouldn't think of unless you watch other people do it.
Yeah. I specifically, during this recent semifinal, went back and watched an athlete's video that I do not coach to see how many times they chalked in between rope climbs during the 30-minute AMRAP, because the person chalking the least in the 30-minute AMRAP is going to win, right? If they're efficient at everything. And it's like, even that, like, how many times should I have to chalk if I want to compete against the top 10 in the world? Like, it's like down to that, like, OCD you have to get a little bit. And like another big thing I think for video review that a lot of people miss out on is understanding transition in workouts, especially in an online competition, because usually you have a lot more control over transition, but really learning how to transition in workouts. I had a athlete that I coached for a while, and they would go back and watch film review and specifically take like numerical account of their transitions and see like where they fell off, and also like kind of pay attention as to like their body language as to why they fell off in transition and how they could have used the transition better to benefit the workout. Because we have in our sport, like, transitions are such a huge thing, especially in live competition too. And it's like, what are you doing? Should you jog there? Should you walk there? Should you chalk there? Right? Like, what are you doing in your transition? Are you thinking about the next movement, or are you thinking about how hard the last movement you just did and now you got to go back to it? Those are all things you can pick up in video review if you're watching yourself compete or scrimmage. Or that, I like that you said that. Like, that was a big thing we used to do in high school all the time, is we would go back and watch our scrimmages after practice. And it's like, how many times when I do a deload week or I test out on a workout with athletes that we have, how many times are our athletes going back and watching the workouts that we're having them retest to figure out why they did better, or maybe why they got the same score, or why they did worse. Like, there's so many factors in our sport that could cause those things, that if we don't go back and watch and learn from them, we're going to miss out on little details, like you said, kip swings.
There's another thing too. There's the belief factor, right? Like, everyone's heard the story of, like, you know, back in the day, they said no one would ever break the 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden one person did, and then it like opened up the gates for tons of people to end up breaking it, because now they're like, oh wait, people can, and so can I. Now, most people aren't going to break a 4-minute mile, but the same thing could be true, especially if you're comparing yourself to your peers. Let's just say, like, it was heavy Isabel, and you could already do it. You see some, you know, Jeff Adler just got a crazy score. Maybe no one's going to be as close to that as they want to be, but 319, can I get closer to that? Maybe now they figure out a new skill, a new technique, or just more belief that they can push themselves a little bit harder. Another example was the semifinal workout. That was the 5 intervals. You do the 10 shuttle runs, the 10 clean and jerks, and the burpees. A lot of people did that workout the first time, and they got 35 reps. And then all of a sudden they did it again, they got 55 reps. Like, no one should gain 20 reps in that workout in 24 hours, other than realizing other people were just going faster than them. And you kind of earn that, or start to believe in yourself when you see other people that can do that.
Look at Seth with Isabel. Did it 3 times over the weekend, you know.
Improved every time.
And then PR'd on the 3rd attempt. Like, I mean, go back to enhanced expectancies, right? Like, walking in with belief, less maybe pressure in that case. But to go back to the why, and I think this is worth talking about, I would actually say one of the top reasons is because in our sport, I think it's – maybe this is starting to change. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's still kind of not cool to try to be smart about stuff in our sport. Does that make sense? Like, it's not as cool. It's cooler to be like, bro, I just go hard. Right? Maybe I think there's a lot of jock mentality still in the sport of CrossFit, because that's kind of like the roots of it. Was like, dude, I don't have a plan. I just go hard. I don't have a coach. I don't need a coach. I just go super hard. Right? Like, I think that there's still some of that prevalent, and maybe less so because maybe we're in a bubble, or maybe I'm just off on that completely. But I still think that there's a big component of that. You know, or like, hey, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to my training kind of stuff. Right? Like, so video review almost sounds too geeky, too nerdy. Maybe that's my own bias, like, coming into it of thinking, but yeah.
Yeah, I think if you think of the top person in any professional sport, it's what they're doing, right? Like, they're watching back like throwing mechanics, shooting mechanics, batting mechanics. Like, yes, they have coaches that help them do that, but most athletes are actually also doing a lot of that on their own as well. Like, I can even think of a time for myself.
But would you like with that? Do you think there's still a component of that, or am I a little off there? Is that my
Oh
own
no, I
bias
think for sure. I think there's like that part of like grungy CrossFit from back in the beginning,
Yes,
where you just
yeah.
walked into a box, you kill yourself in a workout, and you're gonna get better.
Yep.
Because like, yeah, everybody was kind of doing the same thing until people started treating it like a real sport.
Yeah.
But I just think like I was even thinking back for burpee stuff. Like, I used to die on every burpee workout. Like, when I first started working with Matt, and I was like, why? Like, I know I'm not like fit enough for some of this volume, but I also know it's not completely like just fitness. And I actually this sounds like insane, but I would do like 5 count burpees. Like, I would like go down to the ground, think about like how I was bending my elbows, where I was placing my hands, and then I would like practice a slow groiner step up, right? And then just like step up to the box at an angle, because it was burpee box jump over specifically, and then just repeat that movement pattern. I would do that on my own without him like programming that. I would just like go in and do like 30 of those as a warm up, like for the day. And like, I don't think people are doing that. And then I would like film a workout that I had burpees in, and I would see if I was doing the same mechanics at speed. And then I would be like, oh shoot, like I'm not. So then in the next session, I would come into the next session, I would actually slow my workout down, even if I got less fitness out of it. But I would find myself finding the actual correct movement pattern. And then within like 2 months, I could do it without blinking, right? Which is skill development in a sense.
Yeah.
But it all comes from me like watching myself in a scrimmage being like, or an open workout, being like, what the heck is that? Right? And then being like, how do I fix this? Breaking it down like step by step, practicing it in an unfatigued setting, videoing it, rewatching. And then all of a sudden you're just doing it without thinking. And I can still do that same burpee pattern to this day without having to think.
Yeah.
Right?
It's why, and like, I mean, we're beating a dead horse with this, but it's like, I think that's why I keep going back to the why. Why? Because I think it's in my own head of like going back playing football. I did that in football. I looked at, I watched I remember in high school, like my junior year, like I would just inhale film. Like, not of just myself and how I moved. Like, why does my 3-point stance look like that? That looks stupid. My butt is way too high, right? Like, even just like, like and then watch the NFL and what do they look like when they move and they run their routes and how they're catching? I mean, that's how kids even learn, like, all the, like, even football, like little moves or spin moves or hurdling or anything. And I did it so much then. I did it all through college. And then I got to CrossFit. And if you would have told me to go watch film of myself in 2015, I would have been that jock that would have been like, bro, what? Like, this is we're just working out.
I mean, it is part of the culture, right? In football, the culture is that if you're on a team, you're watching film and you're preparing for the next game. And it's the same in most sports. However, in CrossFit, it's just never been part of the culture. But I think that's why we're having this conversation, because this is the conversation we have with all of our athletes. And again, it's not just elite athletes that need to do this. Like, yes, they probably need to do it even more if they're trying to be at the top of the podium. You need to know like what all your peers are doing and how to improve every aspect of the sport. But even the very beginner, if you want to be competitive in the sport, you should be watching others. Like, how are they doing their ring muscle ups? How are they doing their handstand walk? How are they transitioning in this open workout? Because they're all things that you can learn from. And even if it's just one detail, you get better at that one detail every time you watch film. You're getting better than everyone else around you.
And I think a cool thing about CrossFit in itself is we do pull some things from other sports. So you can, like, for example, you can go watch like actual rowers row on a rower, and it'd probably be better to practice their mechanics than like some bottom level CrossFit Games athlete or something, right? On the rower. Obviously, like, probably look at the best rowers in CrossFit as well, but we can even go outside of our sport for like running mechanics, rowing mechanics. Olympic lifting is a huge one. Like, I think for myself, when I started figuring out how to Olympic lift really well is when I stopped watching CrossFitters Olympic lift and I started utilizing like actual Olympic lifting. Coaches, technique stuff, like videos.
To tee you guys up here to play, not even devil's advocate, but just to tee you guys up with this, the comeback of going, well, Rich didn't do that, or like any other athlete, they didn't watch film. Why do I need to do it? What would your response be to that?
You go first.
Yeah, well, I think everyone's been aware of their competitors. So, like, even if they weren't going into the nitty gritty details of each athlete, like, they knew where they needed to be in workouts and they knew how to pace. So that's one thing. You don't know what the elites are actually doing a lot of the time. But now the sport is deeper than it's ever been, right? Like, I mean, you look at the scores of the semifinal workouts just a couple of weeks ago when this comes out. Like, I was shocked. The top 20 or 30 on the men and women's side is so deep. Everyone is basically the same, right? It's all it is a rep here, a rep there, rowing 1 second per 500 meters faster in a workout, doing one more snatch before the buzzer, whatever it may be that got you your top 11. And so if you really want to be at the top of the sport, you have to be good at every little detail. But again, like I don't want it just to be about the elite athletes. Like, it does matter for those beginners, because it's like if you want to achieve the goal of being top 10% in the open or qualifying for a certain event, now even those are competitive. Like, you look at the top 30 in just like a basic online competition, it's like, man, everyone's pretty good now. Like, everyone can do all the skills. And so it's like, how do we learn to be able to get to that level, learn from others, and then learn from yourself and find the things that are holding you back?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then last thing I would just add on it a little bit with like video review is, if you have the opportunity, if you ever compete, like if you're competing, if you can watch yourself compete, it's super helpful, because there's mistakes and stuff you'll make on a competition floor because of nerves and being in live competition that don't really happen in training. And obviously that could be like going back to live streams if you're at a higher level, or just having someone like, hey, I know this workout's going to be hard for me this weekend. Would you mind filming it like in my lane?
Body language too.
Yeah, body language. You can learn like so much stuff, like mentally, physically,
Yeah.
literally everything, just by reviewing yourself in a workout. And then again, like we've said, just going back to the best and watching them do it. I learned that I do that as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will go watch, like Jeff Adler just crushed every single workout. I've already watched all 5 of his videos. I want to see what that guy's doing if I want to help athletes get to that level. And I also want to see what his coach is doing in those videos. Like, I literally go into that and be like, what is she doing for Adler that I might not be doing for my athletes? And I think film study takes a bit of humility as well, and just being able to take a step back and being like, there's a lot of people out there that are better at me than this stuff, and I can go learn from them if I just simply sit down and watch, instead of like watching the new episode of Black Mirror or something.
What is that?
It's a stupid show.
Okay. Yeah. I think, man, humility is the wise man realizes how much he doesn't know, right? To go back to even like body language, you're watching Seth do Isabel on the first attempt, and just after missing, I think you were watching him too. Like, it was like his first or second rep that he missed in the first attempt, or second attempt, sorry, where like when he just stuck it, he just went like this with his head, like just kind of rocked back. Right away, I was like, it's over. Like, it's over. Like,
I told you, I was like, we should call it.
Yeah, I think you actually may have, like, because I think I looked up at you, like, and then you were like, we should call it? I'm like, you think we should call it? We were like, we were going back and forth. It's hard to make that call. But I don't know if have you ever seen an athlete in a competition, in any workout, like, show that much negative body language and then proceed to go crush the workout? No. I've never seen that happen. I don't know about you, Brandon. Like, it's always that, like, just like it didn't even happen. You stay locked in. And I think the video review would help a ton with that too, right? Like, just looking back and be like, dang, why did I it's like Huberman always says, like, use the body to control the mind, right? Yeah. Like, body language matters. So,
and honestly, it's why I watch other sports too. And I think athletes in any sport should do this, but like, I watch the NBA playoffs, even though I never watch NBA regular season. But like, I was watching a game last night, and like, Anthony Edwards is obviously killing it right now in the NBA. But he's had 2 horrible games, like literally like 1 for like 30 between 2 games, like making shots. And he's probably like at the top in the sport right now. And he missed a couple layups in the game yesterday, and he like walked back on defense and was shaking his head and proceeded to have a terrible game. Steph Curry got injured, and the Warriors still beat them.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of it was like that. And like, I am excited to watch the next game to see if he can like turn that around from watching film. He'll go watch film of the game and be like, what are we doing? And like, his energy affects the whole team too, because he's the leader of that team. And I think we forget that even in like training camps and stuff, or people you're training around, like, how you act in a competition setting affects all the people you're around as well. And it just plays a massive role in like paying attention to that. And again, Like, I love watching other sports. Like, it has no benefit to my life, but I love watching Steph Curry move off the ball. Like, if I go watch a basketball game with him in the game, he's like the number one in the NBA off the ball movement to get open. And I just like love watching it. And I can apply stuff like that to other sports. Like I said, I'm rewatching my athlete's film, and then I'm comparing it to another athlete. And I'm watching little things like, okay, like when are they choosing to put the rower handle in the rower at what meters? At 950, at 960, at 980, or once it's over 1,000, right? Are they letting go of the handle like when they know it's their last row and they're not getting back to the rower so they can transition faster to the toes to bar? Are they chalking before the first set of 6 toes to bar? Are they chalking after the first set of 6 because they know they're going to take a rest anyways, right? Like every little detail in a film review goes so far, because then you can show people and even yourself like, hey, there's reasons I'm losing time on workout that have nothing to do with my fitness. And that's I think big. That's what we're missing the most by not doing film review is we're missing out on our ability to increase our reps and scores in workouts without having to improve our fitness at all.
We want it to just be about hard work.
Right.
Like I think that's a big part of it. We don't, I don't want to get too philosophical, but I think that's the desire. No, I just want it to be about how hard I train. Right.
You know, it's a huge one that actually just popped in my mind that I was thinking about that I watched a lot is how many people take like 3 steps out of the rack on the back squat workout versus the people who were taking 1 step out and 1 step in every single time. And I think it was the 3rd place score in the world for the back squat workout on the guy's end. The guy did 3s on the back squats. 3s. Because he was taking a step in and a step out every single time. But
you wouldn't know that unless what? You watched the film. Video. Yeah. Right. It's like the little things that you can learn from it. I mean, obviously you're an excellent coach and you're trying to learn for your athletes, but like it shouldn't just be the coaches doing that. It needs to be if you really care about getting better, especially in a sport where it's all about the individual, even on a team, the individual has to perform. Like you need to be doing that for yourself.
Yeah. And actually the coach doing it alone actually does absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, good point.
That's true. Awesome. Well, there's some encouragement.
Go watch some film. And go watch some old Rich Froning film too.
Yeah, we should definitely do a spoof where you're sitting like a Bill Belichick attire and you're just like, fast forward, rewind, rewind. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.